Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a truth that may shake your comforts. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. And not everyone who claps for you wants you to win. We live in a culture obsessed with being liked. We chase approval. We want to fit in. We soften our standards, silence our convictions, and compromise our values, all for the sake of being friendly. But I came to tell you today, there is a danger in being too friendly. You were not born to please people. You were born to fulfill purpose. You were not created to blend in. You were designed to stand out. And when you are too friendly, you confuse your assignment. Stop being too available. Stop being too accessible. Stop giving away your time, your energy, your peace to people who do not value your purpose. Listen, every relationship is an investment, and you must learn to protect your life like it's a vault, because your future is expensive. And not everyone deserves access to it. Who is sitting at your table? Are they feeding your destiny or draining your soul? Are they pulling you higher or distracting you from your assignment? Some of you are delayed, not because the enemy is strong, but because your circle is weak. You're too friendly with people who don't belong in your future. You're entertaining the familiar when God is calling you to the unfamiliar. Stop inviting people into rooms that were never meant for them. Being kind is not the same as being careless. Love does not mean lack of boundaries. Forgiveness does not mean foolishness. And peace does not mean pot. We live in a world that constantly tells us to be liked, to be accepted, to be agreeable. The pressure to gain approval has become so strong that many people have traded their identity for popularity. But the truth is, you were not created to fit in, and you were created to fulfill a specific purpose. And purpose is not always popular. When you are too focused on being friendly with everyone, you risk diluting the very essence of who you are. You begin to adjust your voice so others won't feel uncomfortable. You hide your gifts so you don't seem too bold. You lower your standards so people won't call you a too much. But in doing so, you slowly silence the very thing that makes you unique. The moment you stop molding yourself to please the crowd, you step away from the blueprint of your assignment. Purpose demands clarity. It requires focus. It calls for conviction. And sometimes it demands that you walk alone. If you're always trying to be liked, you will never have the courage to be different. And make no mistake, those who make the greatest impact are often misunderstood before they are celebrated. Your life is not a popularity contest. This isn't about how many friends you have or how many people follow you. It's about whether you are following the path that was set before you. Too much friendliness can make you compromise. You say yes as you should say a no. You tolerate things you know are wrong. You keep company with people who celebrate you, but never challenge you. When you live for people's approval, you become addicted to applause and allergic to correction. You start living from the outside in instead of the inside out. But real power, real fulfillment, and real peace come when you live from the core of your calling, not from the opinions of others. You cannot serve both popularity and purpose. They will eventually demand different decisions. Popularity will ask you to follow the crowd. Purpose will ask you to lead. Popularity will beg you to entertain. Purpose will require you to equip. Popularity will have you changing your message to stay liked. Purpose will tell you to speak the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Don't let your need to be friendly rob you of the boldness to be faithful. Your calling isn't casual. It comes with weight. It comes with sacrifice. And yes, it sometimes comes with loneliness. But the reward of fulfilling your purpose far outweighs the applause of being liked. So stand tall in who you are. Speak with clarity. Move with intention. And never trade your assignment for acceptance. Purpose must always come before popularity. Access is a privilege, not a right. One of the most important lessons you can learn in life is that not everyone deserves access to you. Your time, your energy, your thoughts, your heart, these are sacred resources. And when you give them away too freely, you cheapen your own value. Being too friendly with everyone can cause you to open doors that were meant to stay shut. And once some people walk in, they don't come to bless, they come to burden. You must treat your life like a vault. Not everything you possess should be on display, and not everyone should hold the key. Just because someone is near you doesn't mean they should know everything about you. True proximity does not equal permission. Many people confuse friendliness with access. They think that being nice means being open. Being generous means being exposed. But boundaries are not barriers, They guard your purpose from people who don't understand its way. Some individuals come into your life with hidden motives. They smile, they flatter, they talk sweetly. But underneath, they are looking for what they can take, not what they can give. And if you're too eager to be accepted, you will let them in without discernment. You will confuse their charm for character. That's why wisdom says, test the spirit before you trust the person. Observe the fruit before you share your root. Being too accessible makes you vulnerable to manipulation. When you give everyone a seat at the table, you risk feeding people who were never meant to eat from your portion. They'll drain your creativity, sap your strength, and question your convictions. Suddenly, you're tired, confused, and off course. Not because of a lack of vision, but because of too much exposure. You allowed people too close who had no business being in the inner circle. Full of grace and truth, did not give everyone equal access. He preached to the multitudes, dined with sinners, and healed the sick, but he only confided in a few. He chose his 12. He shared secrets with 3, and in his most vulnerable moment, he was alone. What does that tell us? That access must be earned, loyalty must be proven, and alignment must be tested. You must stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned the right to your trust. Stop justifying your decisions to people who don't carry your vision. Not everyone can handle the weight of who you are becoming. And not everyone deserves a backstage pass to your development. There's power in being selective. There's wisdom in being guarded, not out of fear, but out of respect for your calling, your time, and your peace. The more you grow, the more you must learn the difference between being kind and being careless. Be kind to everyone, but give access only to those who prove they can handle the treasure you carry. Because your life is valuable, and access to it must be treated as such. Delays in life are not always caused by external enemies or difficult circumstances. Sometimes the greatest hindrance to your destiny is the company you keep. Relationships are powerful. They can either accelerate your growth or suffocate your progress. When you are too friendly, too trusting, and too open with the wrong people, you unknowingly invite distraction, division, and delay into your life. The wrong relationships don't always look wrong at first. In fact, they often come disguised as harmless friendships, familiar faces, or well-meaning supporters. But if you're not careful, these connections can slowly entangle you in emotional obligations and unspoken expectations that drag you off course. You must understand that friendship is not just emotional, it's spiritual. Who you walk with affects how you think, what you believe, and where you... Scripture says, bad company corrupts good character, and yet many people continue to entertain relationships that are toxic to their assignment simply because they don't want to seem rude, cold, or unfriendly. But being polite should never come at the cost of your purpose. You cannot afford to be casual with your calling. When you surround yourself with people who don't value growth, don't honor discipline, and don't challenge you to rise higher, you will eventually find yourself lowering your standards to fit in. And that's where the delay begins. Not because you're incapable, but because you're entangled. The purpose requires alignment. And alignment means walking closely only with those who are headed in the same direction. Some of you are trying to carry people who were never meant to go where you're going. You're dragging relationships that expired seasons ago. You're trying to bring friends into rooms they're not called to enter. And while you're busy accommodating their comfort, your vision is being put on pause. You cannot walk in destiny while constantly managing dysfunction. The emotional labor of maintaining wrong relationships will drain you mentally, spiritually, and even physically. You'll find yourself exhausted, not because of the work of purpose, but because of the weight of people who don't belong in your purpose. It's time to be honest about who is in your circle. Who are you giving your time to? Who has your ear? Who are you trying to carry along out of loyalty or guilt? You don't have to hate them, you don't have to curse them, but you do need to release them. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you understand the cost of delay. Destiny demands that you be selective, intentional, and courageous. Sometimes the greatest act of obedience is not going, it's leaving. Leaving the wrong voices, leaving the familiar pattern. Leaving the relationships that no longer serve your future. Because the truth is simple. The wrong relationships may not destroy you, but they will distract you long enough to delay you. And in this season, you don't have time to waste. Leadership is not about being available to everyone. It's about being aligned with your assignment. One of the most overlooked truths in personal and spiritual development is that you must be selective with who you allow close to you. Just because you have the capacity to help many doesn't mean you are called to walk closely with all. The deeper your calling, the more selective you must become. Your future demands discernment, not just friendliness. Jesus is the perfect example. He ministered to thousands. He healed the sick, fed the multitudes, and welcomed the outcasts. Yet, he did not give equal access to everyone. He chose 12 to walk closely with him. And even within the 12, he had an inner circle. He James and John, who witnessed moments others didn't. Because he understood the power of access. Influence must be managed with wisdom. Intimacy must be guarded with discernment. Being friendly is a wonderful trait, but being selective is a mark of maturity. Not everyone is meant to walk beside you, and not everyone has the capacity to carry the weight of your vision. Leadership requires you to make difficult decisions, not out of arrogance, but out of responsibility. The greater your vision, the fewer people can truly walk in step with it. Some people in your life are good, kind, and well-meaning, but they are not aligned with your future. They may love you, but they do not understand what you carry. They may support you emotionally, but they cannot support you spiritually. And when you try to include everyone in your journey, you end up slowing down the process. Leadership is not about popularity. It is about priority. You must prioritize your purpose over your preferences. You were not called to be everyone's best friend. You were called to lead, to influence, to shift atmospheres, to carry a mantle that few will ever fully understand. With that kind of responsibility comes the need for intentional relationships. People who will challenge your thinking, guard your integrity, remind you of your calling, and push you toward excellence. Friendliness without discernment can lead to distraction. Being too open with too many people will lead to blurred boundaries, misunderstood intentions, and emotional exhaustion. You must stop explaining your standards to those who have no vision for your future. Stop justifying your pace to those who don't carry your burden. When you try to include everyone, you dilute your effectiveness. Leadership calls for clarity. It demands that you say a no than you say yes. It requires the courage to disappoint people in order to obey God. Be kind, be gracious, but also be wise. Guard your space, choose yourself. And remember this, those who are truly meant to walk with you won't need to be convinced to value your path. They'll recognize the weight of your calling and honor it. You are not being rude, you are being responsible. Because leadership isn't just about how far you go, it's about who you bring with you. And your future is too important to leave that to chance.